Hello, this is Professor Angelia. Starting today's class, Works of Heart's Child Psychology and Development. Um, and I gave a little pre-test to my students when I taught this class out in the public venues. And it goes like this. Are these statements true or false? The newborn is born blind, but within the first month develops vision that is similar to the vision of the average adult. It's false. It takes months. And even then, it still takes time. Number 2, newborns show an excellent sense of taste. That's true. They can even distinguish their own mother's milk from another mother's milk. They have an excellent sense of taste. Number 3, by about 2 weeks of age, newborns establish an adult day-night sleep pattern. I think most all of us know that's false. However, if you do keep the child in the baby bed, near your bed, or at the foot of your bed, and when they cry in the night, you soothe them, they start sleeping through the night much faster. All of my children were sleeping through the night by the time they were 3 months old. I've had other people say, oh, my kid's 2 and 3 years old, and they're still crying through the night. Do they start out sleeping in your? Oh, no. We put them in their own room from day one. We were told you should do that, and we let them cry it out. What if you just taught your child that you're unreliable, that they cannot rely on you to soothe them when they're upset, when they can't do it themselves because they're a baby? So, think about that one. Keep the baby at the foot of your bed, beside your bed. When they get upset in the night, soothe them, give them the passy, give them a little rub on their back, check their diaper, whatever. In 3 months, you'll thank me for that. Because y'all be sleeping through the night. If parents are very responsive to their infant's cries during early infancy, the child cries less later in infancy. That's true, as evidenced by what we just talked about. Let them cry it out. All that teaches them is that the world is an unreliable place and they need to be worried and upset. Number 5, newborns can imitate simple facial gestures they see in their environment. And anyone who's a parent knows this is true. You can make those faces, they will do it right back to you. It's great. Number 6, most of the infant's reflexes become stronger during the first year. That's actually false. Actually, it's in the second year. Number 7, children actually grow more during the second year of life than during the first. That's false. During the first year of life, they will get longer and heavier, and that's the most they will grow over their entire lifetime. In that first year. That's why that first year is so important. Number 8, as a rule, girls walk, talk, and toilet train earlier than boys. That's true. Number 9, fathers are more likely to treat their sons and daughters differently than mothers are. That's true. Dads, time to drop the sexist stuff, okay? Number 10, the earlier parents start to toilet train their child, the shorter the amount of time it takes to do so. That is false. If you try to push it, it's not going to happen. The best thing you can do is to wait until the child is ready, till the child tells you that they want to get potty trained. Because until that happens, they're not ready. And by you forcing the issue, you're just going to make it a bigger problem because they're going to fight you and they don't want to do it. That can lead to punishment, abuse, other bad things in this child's life. All children are different. I had one, by the time he was 18 months old, he was potty trained. I had another one. We were still working on it when he was 4, so just takes time. Wait till they are ready and tell you, and it'll happen. Okay, it's another pretest. Okay, and this is a little data graphic here. Age distribution of the U.S. population. Children under 18 will make up about 25.7% of the population in the next few years. 45 to 64%, ages, these are people's ages. Age 45 to 64 is 22.2% of the population. That's where I fall in. Over 65, where my parents fall in, is 12.7% of the population. That's a big jump that goes down there, so that kind of worries us a little bit in our age group. Under 5 years old is 6.9% of the population. And I was reading in a sociology little news story online that said our birth rate has gone down the most it has in history. So that's not great. Age 5 to 13 is 13.1% of the population. Age 14 to 17 is 5.7% of the population. So we still have some child mortality rates, and that's not good. If you watched the news yesterday, you heard a story about a couple who were starving their children to death in their home. And that's why, I'm an activist to prevent child abuse, because this stuff is real and it does happen. 18 to 24-year-olds are 9.6% of our population, and the majority of our population is 25 to 44 years old at 29.9%. And I think probably all of you know this, but just in case you don't. The way a child is created is when a sperm and an egg meet and forms a zygote. And you carry your baby in your belly, your womb, for usually about 9 months. Some of them longer, some of them shorter, usually about 9 months. The likelihood of having a baby with Down syndrome based on maternal age. At age 20, it's 1 in 1,500. At age 25, it's 1 in 1,350. At age 30, it jumps up to 1 in 900. And I'm not going to go through each and every age, but by the time you get to 49 years of age, 1 in 12 children have Down syndrome. So, if you're going to have kids, you might want to kind of aim in that range between the ages of 20 and 35. But it's a blessing if you were to have one older, when you're older. I mean, most of us are going to love that child no matter what their problem is. So, I'm just letting you know the likelihood of, having a baby with Down syndrome increases the older the mother is. Transmission of a recessive trait. Cystic fibrosis, when each parent carries one gene. When both the mother and the father carry the gene for cystic fibrosis, the chances are 25% that an offspring will have the disease, 50% that the child will be a carrier, and 25% that the child will not have the disorder or be a carrier. So genetics are kind of like a roulette wheel there. You never quite know what you're going to get. It all depends on what comes to the fore in the mother's genetics and what comes to the fore in the father's. It's kind of roll of the dice there in the genetics. Some other genetic diseases, such as Tay-Sachs disease, and phenylketonuria, that's one of them words I never can quite say right, my little crazy tongue won't do it, are transmitted in the same way as cystic fibrosis. Determination of sex. I'm talking about the sex of the baby, not, The child's mother can contribute only an X chromosome, while the child's father can contribute an X or a Y. Statistically, 50% of the conceptions will produce males, and 50% will produce females. However, other factors, such as conditions in the vagina, influence whether an X or Y carrying sperm will reach and penetrate the egg. Chromosomes and genes. Genes are carried on chromosomes. Each normal human being has 23 pairs of chromosomes. Parenting styles. And I'm going to read to you the style, the demandingness level, and the responsiveness level. Authoritarian parents have a high demandingness level and a low responsiveness level. And by demandingness level, that means what they expect of you, and responsiveness level is how they respond to you anytime you're upset or need comforting or have a problem. So authoritarian parents demand a lot of you, but are not very responsive to you. Permissive parents have a low demandingness level and a high responsiveness level. Those are the kind of parents who can kind of spoil a kid, Neglecting or rejecting parents have a low demandingness level and a low responsiveness level. Authoritative parents have a high demandingness level and a high responsiveness level, and that's what I aim for. Authoritative means you are the authority figure, but you're also teaching your child. That's your most important job, is to teach your child how to be, a good, smart, loving, decent human being. That's your job. If you had kids, that's your job. The growth of single-parent families. And here we have percentages of all families. In 1970, 87% of families were two-parent families. By 1980, that's gone down to 79%. And we're going to skip ahead quite a bit to 1997. That's only 68%. So divorce has become a real issue in society. And I think maybe it's because people get married too soon, or, they aren't understanding of how to be a couple because their family was a broken family. And that's why I'm a big believer in couples therapy. If you go, you learn about yourself, you learn about each other. And if you really love each other, and that's one of the things I say a lot about, is sometimes people love each other, but they don't know how to love each other. So if you really love each other, you can try and work it out. Because children do best when they have both parents around. Successful single-parent families, which my family was for about 8 years. In these families, they had an acceptance of responsibilities and challenges, because it is what it is. These parents showed a positive attitude toward parenting and life in general. Because, like I said, if you're a parent, that's your job. You need to take care of them, and you need to show them that, it's not the end of the world if you break up with someone you love. The world goes on, and your life goes on. You got to have a good attitude about that, or you're teaching your kids something different. Problems were neither maximized nor minimized. Parenting was a priority. Like I said, that if you had kids, that's your job. Parents wanted to be the best possible single parent and we're willing to sacrifice time, money, and energy. Because raising a kid does take energy. Sometimes you can be wore out and you're like, oh God, but you just got to do it. Many thought there would be time for themselves later on, and there will be. Use of consistent, non-punitive discipline. Because discipline is supposed to be teaching. It's not about punishing your child and showing them who's the boss. I'm the boss. It's about teaching them. You want to teach them how to be a good person. The household had a structure and logical consequences followed any misbehavior. Like there are houses where any misbehavior gets a swat on the behind. No, that's excessive force in my opinion. If they throw a piece of paper on the floor off of their candy bar, then the next time they don't get one, or you make them pick it up, and then you follow up next time. There needs to be logical consequences, common sense discipline. Everything is not a beating offense. Nothing should be a beating offense. Open communication is encouraged. Trusting relationships were formed through an honest expression of feelings. And you have to do that. You have to talk to your kids, and you have to be there for them so that they know anytime they want to talk, you can talk to them. And if you're just absolutely swamped in the middle of something, like you're dealing with, government agency on the phone or whatever, you can tell the child, I can see you're upset. Why don't you go in your room and lay down, and as soon as I get off the phone or whatever, I'll come talk to you about this. And then you do it. They learn to trust you if they know that you're there for them and that they can tell you anything no matter what it is. Individuality is fostered within a supportive family. All kids aren't the same. All kids are different. And you shouldn't make them compete against each other. They're all different, and you have to be able to support their differences and support the unique person that they are. Children's individuality and independence was supported. Each person was seen as having particular skills and interests. And, there are parents I know that, say you hit the door when you're 18. Okay, what if they're not ready to hit the door when they're 18? What if it takes longer for them? What you've taught them is they can't do it. They're 18, they're not ready, and they feel like a failure. So I'm a believer in you let them fly when they're ready to fly. I have one flown, got his own house, he was ready. When the other ones are ready, they'll fly too. Recognition of needs for self-nurturance. Despite the fact that the parent lacked time for herself, and it usually is herself, there are some dads raising kids. Congratulations to you out there, dads, doing that. An attempt to continue to grow was made through physical, spiritual, emotional, and social means. And what this is saying is, don't forget about yourself. You have to take care of yourself so you can take care of these other little people in your life. Respect of rituals and traditions. The family had specific routines, such as at bedtimes. You get your bath at this time, you get your bath at this time, you get your bath at this time, and then you get into bed. And holiday celebrations were common. And my kids were lucky because they had 3 holidays usually. One here, one at their dad's when we were apart, and one, at my family's. So they were a little lucky in that regard. Married with young children and in the labor force. The percentage of married women with children below the age of 6 who are employed has risen sharply over the years. Because gone are the days, in the 40s and 50s when dad could just work and he could support the entire family. Because the cost of living has gone up and up and up. And the pay scale has not gone up and up and up. So in most homes, you need 2 incomes to support a household and raise a family. So in the year 1960, only 20% of women worked. Now, we're going to jump up. The sharpest increase in that is in 1990, when 60% of women worked. And then in 97, we're over that to almost 70% of women worked outside the home and had young children. That's just our reality nowadays. Child care in the United States. Let's see. 23% of children who need to go into child care are at a group daycare center. 8.7% are cared for by their mother while working. There are some workplaces that have daycares or will allow, the mother to have the child near her. And that's great if you can find a job like that. There aren't a lot of those in my area, but I know in other places in this country and other parts of the world there are. So it's great if you could do that. 1.6 are cared for by others. 31% are cared for at the home of another individual, such as a relative, non-relative, family member, or a daycare home. So, again, check out all the daycares. Make sure they're legit and that these people are decent people. 35.7% are cared for in the child's own home, such as babysitter or the parents work 2 separate shifts. We tried that for a while. Didn't work out for us, but it works out for some people. Summary of prenatal development. Prenatal development is orderly and predictable. So we're going to talk about the time elapsed, and then we're going to talk about the embryonic or fetal characteristics. So at 4 weeks, 1 month, the fetus is 0.25 to 0.5 inches long. The head is 1/3 of the embryo. The brain has lobes, and rudimentary nervous system appears as a hollow tube. The heart begins to beat. The blood vessels form, and blood flows through them. Simple kidneys, liver, and digestive tract appear. Rudiments of eyes, ears, and nose appear. It has a small tail still. At 8 weeks or 2 months, it's 1.5 inches long. It's 1/3 of an ounce in weight. Human face with eyes, ears, nose, lips, tongue appears. Arms have paw-like hands. Almost all internal organs begin to develop. Brain coordinates functioning of other organs. Heart beats steadily and blood circulates. Complete cartilage skeleton, beginning to be replaced by bone. Tail beginning to be absorbed. Now called a fetus. Sex organs begin to differentiate. So that's why before a couple months you don't know whether it's going to be a boy or a girl. 12 weeks or 3 months. It's 3 inches long. 1 ounce in weight. Begins to be active. And this is usually when people in the old days called it quickening, when you could feel the baby. So that baby, they felt like at that point the baby was filled with the spirit. It became alive. It was quickening and they could feel it move. Number of nerve muscle connections almost triples. Sucking reflex begins to appear. And yes, they suck their own fingers and thumbs in the womb. Can swallow and may even breathe, but in the womb it's liquid. Eyelids fuse shut. They will stay shut until about the 6th month. But eyes are sensitive to light. They found this out in studies they've done looking in, with a, little camera and shine a light in there, and they can see the little eyes, through the lids that aren't even open yet. Like, whoa, what is that? Normal organs begin to function. So the organs start to function normally like they're going to when it's an adult. 6 to 7 inches long when it's 4 months old. 5 to 6 ounces in weight. Body now growing faster than the head. Skin on the hands and feet forms individual patterns, your fingerprints. Eyebrows and head hair begin to show. Fine, downy-like hair, called lanugo, covers the body. Movements may now be felt. That quickening we talked about. At 20 weeks or 5 months, it's 10 to 12 inches long. It's 8 to 16 ounces in weight. The skeleton hardens. The nails form on fingers and toes. Skin covered with cheesy wax. Heartbeat now loud enough to be heard with a stethoscope. Muscles are stronger. Definite strong kicking and turning. Can be startled by loud noises. And if you've ever been pregnant and somebody drops something or there's a loud noise, you might have felt that baby jump in there. 24 weeks or 6 months. 12 to 14 inches long. 1.5 to 2 pounds in weight. Can open and close its eyelids now. Grows eyelashes. Much more active, experiencing muscles, exercising, getting ready to be born. May suck its thumb. May be able to breathe if born prematurely. So by 6 months, usually it can be helped. If it's born before that, it can usually not be helped. 28 weeks or 7 months. It's 16 inches long, 2.5 to 3 pounds in weight. Begins to develop fatty tissue. Internal organs, especially the respiratory and digestive systems, are still developing. It has a fair chance for survival if born now. 32 weeks or 8 months. 16.5 inches long, 4 pounds in weight. Fatty layer complete. At 38 weeks or 9 months, it's usually born. And the weight just all depends. There's people with 4-pound babies, people with 10, 12-pound babies, which, I don't know. 19 to 20 inches long. All of mine were over 20 inches long. 6 to 8 pounds in weight is the average. 95% of full-term babies born alive in the United States will survive. Okay, and here we have stages. Again, a little more descriptive here. The fertilized ovum has divided for the first time, and that's the instant, that you're pregnant. The chromosomes from the father and mother have united, and the genetic composition of the new life is formed. Cell division starts at once, and the developing cluster of cells moves slowly down the fallopian tube toward the uterus. 5 weeks old and 2/5 of an inch long. The major divisions of the brain can be seen as well as an eye. The hands, the arms, and a long tail are present. The upper part of the lower body develops more rapidly than the lower part. Development takes place from the top down. So that means like the head, the torso, and then your legs and arms branch out. It's kind of central and then out. 6 weeks old and 3/5 of an inch long. The embryo rests securely in its shock-absorbing amniotic sac. The heart beats rapidly. The brain is growing and the eyes are taking shape. The dark red swelling at the level of the stomach is the liver. The external ears are developing from skin folds. At 8 weeks, 4 centimeters, or 1.6 inches long, the developing individual is no longer an embryo, but a fetus. Everything that will be found in the fully developed human being has now been established. The fetal stage is a period of growth and perfection of detail. The baby is now getting ready to become a person and be born. The fetus in the 3rd month. There is never any exchange of blood between mother and fetus. But sometimes stuff happens, and that's why if your spouse or the father and mother have different blood types, they have that RhoGAM, shot to protect you in case there's any exchange. All exchanges of nutrients and oxygen occur by diffusion. At 4.5 months, about 18 centimeters, just over 7 inches, when the thumb comes close to the mouth, the head may turn, and lips and tongue begin their sucking motions, a reflex for survival, because they're going to need to be able to suck to get their nutrients once they are born. All right, and that was our bell. So that's it for the class today. Until next time.